Good Wednesday afternoon to you. Thanks for joining us for Sports4CLE. Plenty to talk about Browns Raiders coming up Saturday at 4:30 over at First Energy Stadium. Hayden Grove from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, will join us a little bit later. And some more news out of Berea earlier today. More guys on the COVID positive list, including head coach Kevin Stefanski, quarterback Baker Mayfield, defensive backs Troy Hill, John Johnson, Malik McDowell, Ifade Oden Ibo, and I butchered that one, and Nate Meters on the defensive side of the ball, all COVID positive. They go on that restricted list with the 8 guys, mostly from the offensive side of the ball, that tested positive a week ago. Let's welcome in Steve Wyche, NFL reporter, who will be on the call of the Browns-Raiders game Saturday at 4:30 on the NFL Network. Coverage kicks off Saturday at 2 o'clock on the NFL Network. Steve, as always, appreciate the time. Browns just keep getting guys on that list. There was some talk that vaccinated players who were asymptomatic, they may reduce the time away. Have you heard anything more about that?
Yeah, apparently at the league meetings today, the NFL and the NFLPA, along with their overall health officials, are discussing the possibility of doing that. And so probably greater, the CDC and some of the other health officials from those organizations, as well as local health officials, will probably have some input into something like this to see if it's safe for asymptomatic and vaccinated people to return sooner than what they are now. Now it's usually about a two or 3 day, maybe short, maybe it's a 5-day waiting time for them to get back, but I don't think it's that long. Again, excuse me for that, but it could be something where they could come back sooner. Now, would that come into play in time for Saturday's game? That's the big question. I'm sure they're in Cleveland with so many folks being on that COVID list, but that's being discussed, as is daily testing. The NFLPA has pushed for daily testing. The NFL resisted it for vaccinated players, where it was just once a week testing, but now the daily testing could come into play as well. That way, if someone tests negative on a Monday but could possibly catch the virus at some point in between and possibly spread it, they would know sooner and could mitigate that situation, rather than finding out later on, after that week's time, that a vaccinated player again would be tested.
And again, those conversations are ongoing between the Players Association and the league. Kevin Stefanski tested positive this morning for it. Does the fact that the Browns had to go through this with Kevin Stefanski testing positive during a playoff game a season ago, so they had to have all these systems in place, and they've gone through this before at a critical juncture. Do you think that helps mitigate some of the collateral damage that would be done by this?
I would think so, because, look, some of the players who were at least there on that team last year, which is the majority of the roster, they understand kind of the communication order, kind of the leadership order, maybe Mike Priefer's style, the way he likes to organize things, which probably isn't that different from Kevin Stefanski's. But I would think the fact that they've done this before from that perspective, and it's not something that's completely new, should help. I mean, anytime, look, football players and coaches are creatures of habit. So even though this is kind of an out there circumstance, the fact that it's not completely foreign should be somewhat of an ace in the pocket.
So Baker Mayfield also tests positive. Case Keenum has won a game as a starter, a Thursday game against the Broncos earlier this year. How valuable is it for a team to have a guy like Case Keenum as the backup quarterback that has, realistic playoff hopes this year?
It's great. Look what they did against Denver when Case came in and started and won that game and played very well. Look, they ran the heck out of the ball. Case was in total control of what they did, cadence-wise, situationally-wise. So having a veteran who everywhere he's been is well-respected by the coaching staff and his teammates, it is invaluable at this time of year. Case is going to be unflappable in a situation like this, whether it's, bad weather or whatever. He's been there and he's done it before. So, yes, you'd rather have Baker Mayfield out there because he's the starter, but having to fall back on someone like Case Keenum is not the worst thing in the world.
Talking with Steve Wyche, NFL Network reporter, who will be on the call for the Raiders-Browns game, 4:30 on the NFL Network on Saturday. What are some storylines to keep an eye out for that you'll be watching with this one coming up?
Well, look, again, it's just a COVID situation. We can talk about the Browns' offensive line. Losing John Johnson and Troy Hill in the secondary at the same time, that is a significant blow. But also, you flip it over. Can the Raiders block that defensive front from the Browns? That has been an issue. They're coming off of a terrible game against the Chiefs. So those are some matchup type storylines. Of course, we know this is huge for both teams' playoff pushes. A team that loses is really going to set itself back with any type of playoff hope. So the winner keeps itself alive. Those are other storylines. But the key thing for the Browns I'm looking at is, can they run the football? Okay, that is the huge part of this. Again, it looks like there's going to be some rain and weather. And if they can run the ball, again, that's what they do best. They can be the Browns. And they can also keep it away from this Raiders offense, which isn't nearly as explosive as it was a few weeks ago. This is a Raiders team that is reeling, lost 5 of their last 6. So if the Browns can be the Browns and control the ball on the ground, I think they've got a really good shot to win this game.
How impressed have you been with the Browns defense the last 6 to 8 weeks? Minus, let's take out the Patriots loss, because that one was a little rough on all sides of the football. But other than that, how impressed have you been with the way the defense has played lately?
Yeah, I mean, look, they played well, and it all starts up front. You know, you've got J.D. Clowney, you've got Ogunjobi, and, of course, you've got Myles Garrett, arguably the leader in the house for the Defensive Player of the Year. But the corners have played well, and the safeties have played well. And that linebacking crew is just so much better than it has been, the way they can get to the ball, the way they're playing physical. So they really seem to have found their groove. And we're seeing teams that are starting to emerge for the playoff push to really be solid defensively. I mean, that's a trend you're seeing across the league when you're looking at teams like the Patriots. You see the Rams defense is finally coming around like that. And the Packers defense has been good all season, but that seems to be tightening up a little bit as well. So that's a really good trend that they have. I think this game is going to be key for them to get some takeaways, and the Raiders are a team that will give the ball away. So that could be really crucial for the defense in this game, especially, again, not having John Johnson and Troy Hill in there. That's a really big blow when they have to go to nickel packages. So getting some takeaways, whether a strip sack, a fumble, or some type of interception, could be vital.
Talking with Steve Wyche. He is the NFL Network reporter, will be on the call of the Browns-Raiders game Saturday, 4:30. NFL Network coverage begins at 2 o'clock. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, Steve and I will discuss some things that have been going well for that Raiders offense. Derek Carr putting together a pretty good season. Sports4CLE, you'll be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
Browns getting ready for a Saturday afternoon game, 4:30 over at First Energy Stadium. You can catch the action on NFL Network. Steve Wyche, NFL Network reporter, is joining us. Coverage begins Saturday, 2 p.m. on NFL Network. Steve, Derek Carr, second most yards passing in the NFL behind only Tom Brady. That's kind of eye-opening as to what Derek Carr is doing throwing the football.
Yeah, you know, look, Derek is having a pretty good season. Not a great season. He's got 18 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. And a lot of those passing yards are coming because his team has fallen behind. But Derek has been very efficient. He's been very consistent. And let's not forget, he's been playing without his top receiver, which is tight end, Darren Waller. And when they lost Henry Ruggs, you know, who was involved in that DUI car accident, he's probably going to go to jail. He lost his big deep threat. So the offense has been a little bit jumbled up. That has really affected some of the explosive plays. Now, Deshaun Jackson has come in and he's hit a few here and there, but that part of the game has not been consistent. But not having Waller in there has impacted not only Carr's consistency, but the Raiders being able to get points on the board. I don't think they've hit more than 20 points in like 5 of their past 6 games, something like that. But Carr, he's not the guy to blame. A lot of folks think Derek Carr is the big issue with the Raiders. He is far from their big issue.
They also have a couple of guys who had quick starts on the defensive line, Max Crosby and Ngakoue. What have you seen from them lately, and what about the defensive side of the football for Las Vegas?
They're studs. Now, Max Crosby was a guy who got out of the gate with a lot of sacks. He's cooled off with that. Yannick Ngakoue, who the Browns should know a little bit from his time spent with the Ravens, he is somebody who is among the league leaders in sacks. But together, they are the number 2 QB pressure tandem in the NFL. They may not always result in sacks, but they are putting quarterbacks under pressure where quarterbacks are having to change their arm angles, get rid of the ball a little bit more than they want to, or to go ahead and try to take off with the ball. So those 2 edge rushers, high effort guys. Look, and with the Browns being without 2 offensive linemen most likely for this game, that's an issue. So if it gets to be a situation where Case Keenum is in 3rd and long or 2nd and 7+, look out for those 2 because they get after it and they are relentless from the first snap to the last snap. They're the 2 best players on the Raiders defense, and in tandem, they have worked very effectively this season.
When you look at this Browns offense, 7 points in the last 8 fourth quarters total. What do you see from this Browns offense? In what areas do you think, they can get that thing rolling in the fourth quarter with?
Well, look, a lot of it comes down to situational football. When you see what's going on to the Browns, a lot of times they're moving the ball, and then a penalty, right? And then that takes them out of a situation. But scoring points, that is the hard thing. I mean, they've been moving the ball somewhat, but just not having the consistent passing game. Baker Mayfield trying to play through that injury, trying to gut through that. Their offense just hasn't really been the same in terms of running the ball. We saw, when the Browns are rolling, that's when they can really pound the ball in the second half of games. And that just has not been there consistently. So that's part of the issue, but they've got to be clean, right? They can't put themselves in long down and distance, and they've got to stop the negative plays, which includes penalties, which adds to that long down and distance, which puts them in lower percentage opportunities to not only move the ball, but to put points on the board.
So when you look at this, Browns are obviously going to be depleted. They'll still have Nick Chubb. They'll still have Treader, Bitonio up on that line. What are some keys to this? How do you scheme up a win if you're the Browns?
Well, again, I think that Denver game is a prime example. They were without Mayfield. They were without both running backs, I believe, and they just came out and they ground out a lot of long, time-consuming drives, right, which allowed them to get into a rhythm, which allowed some of the backup players to feel good about themselves. Now, losing 2 really outstanding offensive linemen, that's tough. But the Raiders, they have not been great consistently against the run. So if you can hit some plays, especially some explosive plays in the run game, those are things that hurts a team's will. And remember, the Raiders are coming off that beatdown by the Kansas City Chiefs where they jumped up on the logo before the game and then just got absolutely smashed throughout. If you break this team's will early on, you got to see how much gumption they have to continue to play for all 4 quarters. So you just talked about some of those interior offensive linemen, and having Chubb. Running the ball is going to be the key. You better believe that's what the Raiders know they're going to try to do, especially, again, because we could have some elements playing a factor into this game. But also, when you flip the ball over, and you heard me talk about, the Browns not having those 2 key defensive backs, they've got to really stop the Raiders' run game and force them into passing situations. That's what teams have been doing to the Raiders because, again, they will turn the ball over, and they have struggled on 3rd down and one of the worst 3rd down teams in the NFL. So that's what they have got to do. And, Myles Garrett and Clowney, I think we're going to see some of those guys come with some interior pass rush as well and some stuff like that to try to slow down what the Raiders are going to try to do offensively.
When you look at, let's flip it. When you look at the Raiders, what are some of the areas you think they might be able to exploit that would get them the win that they need? At 6-7 and 7-6, both these teams need this win.
They really do. Especially, and you look at the Raiders, they're reeling. I think they've lost 5 of 6 since the bye. But early on, maybe they need to hit some explosive plays. They've got to get up to a quick and early lead, right? And that's maybe you're using a Deshaun Jackson to hit a deep play where, a Troy Hill and John Johnson normally could be in coverage on a nickel package. But get up, get some confidence going early in this offense so that way you can mix in the run and the pass and you're not such a one-dimensional pass team because you've fallen behind, right? You mentioned all those yards Derek Carr is thrown for. Again, a lot of them is when they're trying to play catch up when the other team gets a big lead. So getting that big lead early, or some type of lead early, is going to be crucial for them. But also forcing the Browns to punt the ball. Again, the Browns, who's their big threat, in the receiving game? So stop the run and forcing them to punt the ball, maybe playing a little field position game, even if they've got to kick field goals. I mean, you get this Browns offense, which is already going to be missing some key pieces, to try to get them disjointed early on. That's a huge part of what they have to do. So defensively, the Raiders up front have got to play really good football, stopping the run, and they've got to hit some points early on to try to get the crowd out of it and to get some confidence going in an offense that's been all over the place.
Fair to say the Browns also need that defense to continue to play like it has the last several weeks, where this is a game with so many weapons missing on the offensive side of the ball. They really need Myles Garrett, Clowney, and that front seven to kind of dictate tempo, you think?
100%. I mean, they've got to play. I won't say they have to play their best game, but they've got to come in and they've got to force some takeaways, right? Deny the run game, because this is an offense that just has not found an identity all the way through the season. So if you get the Raiders reeling, then you get the ball back to your offense, and they can churn it out. And here's one thing also not to discount. One person who's landed on the COVID list for the Browns is their punter, right? So this might be a situation, depending on the type of the game, where the Browns are going for it on fourth down, right? Where you're getting into 2-down territory when you're on 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 4 and you're near midfield. So these are some things that could factor into the game because of the Browns' health situation. But to get back to the Browns defense, it all starts up front. That's where, their bread is buttered, and they've got an opportunity against a Raiders offensive line that has not been very good in the run or in protecting Derek Carr. So again, if you can get Derek Carr to get rid of the ball quickly, or to try to make some of the hero throws that he likes to make, they might get some key takeaways, which will prove vital.
Steve Wyche, as always, appreciate the time and the insight. Steve, NFL Network reporter. He will be on the call of the Browns-Raiders 4:30 on NFL Network. Coverage starts on NFL Network at 2. Steve, have a great call. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much.
All right. Again, Steve Walsh from NFL Network. Steve Wyche, 4:30 kickoff on NFL Network. 2 o'clock for the pregame for the Browns-Raiders. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. On the other side of the break, Hayden Grove from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com will join us. We continue talking Browns as they get ready for that game Saturday against the Las Vegas Raiders. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns as they get ready for the Las Vegas Raiders 4:30 Saturday afternoon, First Energy Stadium. So Kevin Stefanski met with the media via Zoom earlier today and talked about making the adjustments to all the guys that will be missing. As many as 11 starters for the Browns. Half of them could be out. Here's Stefanski on making the adjustments.
You know, the message to the team, as you can imagine, is we all have to just do our job. So that's what I'm doing, making sure that we're staying engaged in the meetings. Ran our meetings this morning, continuing to game plan and get ready for a big game on Saturday. We'll adjust the schedule this afternoon. We'll bring the guys in for walkthroughs today. So we'll bring the defense in first. We'll be outside, masked up, spread out. Really, the guys will go from the parking lot right onto the field. Then we'll have a brief special teams walkthrough, and then we'll have an offensive walkthrough after that, and then add some more virtual meetings this afternoon. So really, that's where we are. We've been here before, and I don't feel much different than I felt yesterday in terms of everybody has to step up depending on who's available. You kind of lean on what you did last year, and we had weeks like this. So it's not ideal, obviously, but the hope is to get a full speed practice in tomorrow if we can, and we'll deal with tomorrow. But I think the guys understand what needs to get done today, and that's really what's most important.
Let's welcome in Hayden Grove, reporter for the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. Hayden, Kevin Stefanski will be doing all of the install and game planning virtually. Won't be able to be part of the walkthroughs. They will likely FaceTime him or get him in there virtually as well. But if he is unable to coach, they have been there before, so that's comforting.
Yeah, I mean, this whole situation is really unlike anything we've seen. We've seen smaller cases with the Browns and with Kevin Stefanski being having COVID, and with the Browns being without the receivers. But this is a whole nother level. So, I wish I could give some kind of expertise on how this would go, but we've never been here. Yes, the Browns have been able to, come in without a head coach and been able to win a game in the playoffs, and that was big. And Mike Priefer has been there before, and Case Keenum has been there before. But, I think that we're definitely looking at some uncharted territory here. So we'll see how it ends up. If there's any team in the NFL that could win a game with all this happening, it's the Browns, because the Browns just do things that no other team does. And things happen to the Browns that don't happen to other teams. It's just kind of their history or whatever. So we'll see how it ends up. It's definitely interesting. We'll see if maybe there is a postponement here. Maybe the NFL does something. Maybe the players come back early. I have no idea.
So that is one thing that is under consideration, is tweaking the rules for returning from COVID for players that are vaccinated that are asymptomatic. The Browns have only one unvaccinated player on their roster. Ian Rappaport is the one that's been out reporting this as the NFL owners are meeting to potentially tweak those COVID-19 protocol.
There's a lot of possibilities, a lot of options. Could go to extensive protocols like the league did last year with virtual meetings and masks and the entire plan basically from last December that got them through the end of the season, got them through the playoffs. Part of the other thing, Tom, is many of the players who have tested positive are fully vaccinated, asymptomatic, and what do you do with those issues? What does that mean? And that's certainly some of the discussions that are going on here to try to figure out where the league is with these protocols that were developed without a vaccine. Now there is a vaccine and a lot of the players are asymptomatic, so what do you do with that? I think we're going to get, as Judy mentioned, some more news over the next day or so, but certainly does feel like a very, very important time for the league as far as its handling of COVID.
And the vaccinated asymptomatic is kind of important, because the reason that you get vaccinated is to lessen the effects if you catch the virus.
Yeah, I can't, I'm not going to sit on here and be a medical expert of any kind. I mean, I am vaccinated myself, and I have not yet gotten the booster, but I plan on doing so. But yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly what the vaccine was for. The vaccine was to mitigate the risk, to mitigate the effects, to mitigate the transmission. And I think that at times, the Delta variant certainly is one that is, able to be transferable. And it's probably, one that is probably more contagious than the original variant of the coronavirus. But again, I don't know. I'm going off of what the medical experts say and what the CDC and all that good stuff, that what they're saying. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. Obviously, I guess in my opinion, if you're asymptomatic and you're vaccinated, you've been responsible in that way to kind of protect yourself and others by getting the vaccine. I don't know that you should necessarily be punished if you're not feeling well, or if you're feeling good and the virus is in you somewhere somehow. I don't know. There's zero evidence of on-field transmission. I know that. So maybe there is a point where, hey, they might not be able to meet in the building for meetings all the time, but they can end up playing on Sunday. I have no idea. I have no idea how it will go. We'll see how it goes going forward.
Yeah, there's no handbook for this. They're going to come to some agreement with Players Association and the owners. Well, Mike Priefer may very well have to be the head coach. He was asked about if last year has kind of helped him with filling in this year and knowing what to expect if he has to fill in for Kevin Stefanski.
I think anytime you're in this situation, you've been through it before, what worked before. You always learn from the good and the bad. And because like I said, we're so organized here, we have a plan for pretty much everything. And, we just got to try to follow that blueprint and prepare and prepare for this game as best we can with the time that we have. We've played a lot of football this year so far, so our guys know how to play the game. We know our game plans are going to be geared to beat the Las Vegas Raiders, and the quicker they pick this up, our guys pick this up, the better off we're going to be, and utilize the time that's available between now and Saturday afternoon. We have plenty of time to get ready, and we will be ready.
And that's kind of been the message from everybody today. They have time to get ready. They will be ready.
Yeah, I mean, the guys that are going to be ready to play are, it's so late in the season. I mean, they're not changing astronomical things here in terms of the game planning. I mean, yes, there's going to be a different game plan, but, it's not going to be anything that's crazy different from what they've been doing. So I think they can do what they need to accomplish in meetings. I think at times it can even be good where they're, spending some time away from the field, kind of getting their bodies right. A lot of players are still active and out there. I mean, yes, there are a lot that aren't, but there are still plenty that are. And I don't think that it should necessarily change the way they go about business in terms of meetings. Again, at times, we've seen it working from home. I mean, it can be more beneficial sometimes where you don't have to worry about, getting to the office and then, doing all the things that it takes to get there and then go back. And I don't know. It's just very interesting. They've done it before. They did it all last year with at-home meetings. So we'll see if they can do it again this year. And I have no doubt that they can.
Well, not only will Mike Priefer be the head coach, so that means Kevin Stefanski won't be calling the plays. That falls on offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt. Again, he called the plays during that playoff win. He again said he's ready to go.
It definitely helped. Obviously, going through it once before makes it a little easier the second time. Hopefully Kev can get back for Saturday. If not, I've been there before. I don't feel like it's too big for me as well. I'm ready to go in and help this team win. We game plan together. This is a collective group offensively, regardless of who will be there. Hopefully Kevin can make it.
And again, it's a little bit different, but he's not going to go off the board and say, Kevin doesn't know what he's doing. I'm going to call a game this way.
Well, yes, he's right. They're still going to game plan it together, and they're still going to be in this together. And I think a lot of fans will be happy about it because, like we said, there have been times where Kevin Stefanski's play calling has been stale or has been kind of questionable, and this is a good opportunity for Alex Van Pelt to do it. He come in there and see if he can kind of put an ignition in the offense because even last week against the Ravens, I mean, they only scored, 17 offensive points and the other 7 come from Myles Garrett. So the offense is still not where it needs to be. I think they can beat the Raiders with what they got, but I want to see Alex Van Pelt kind of come in there and say, all right, we're dealing without our coach here, but let's see if I can, put some fire under this offense and get them going again.
Well, the other thing is Case Keenum will get his second start. He beat the Denver Broncos Thursday night when Dearness Johnson was the only healthy running back. Should have Nick Chubb, knock on whatever might be around. But Browns are confident in Case Keenum. This is the reason he's here, as the backup quarterback.
Obviously, I feel bad for Baker. He's the leader of this football team as our quarterback. Losing him hurt. But the great thing about Case is, he's an amazing young man. I've known Case a long time. We were together in Minnesota. He's always stepped up to the occasion. When his name was called, he's always been there. He led us to the playoffs in Minnesota. I think we ended up 13-3 that year, and he was our quarterback for all but one game, I think. He filled in against the Broncos, did a phenomenal job. Thank God we have Case Keenum, I'll be honest with you, because if you had a real young quarterback, an experienced quarterback, it might be tougher. But Case is going to run the game plan exactly how it should be run, and I know the whole team has confidence in him.
And that's a really valid point. This is a guy who's been in every situation in the NFL. He's been a starter before. So that is a silver lining, is that you do have Case Keenum.
Yeah, again, a lot of fans, for better for worse, not me, obviously, and then not a lot of people in the media and whatever, but a lot of people think that Case Keenum is the answer at quarterback, and this is your shot. Again, he's not going to be the quarterback going forward, but you talk about how unhealthy Baker is and how Case should be in there. All right, well, here you go. Here's your giant. Here's the opportunity. So the expectation is that Case Keenum comes in and plays well, plays really well. If he's the guy and he's the backup that deserves to play, then he needs to go in there and play. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think he's a backup who's capable and serviceable, but and that's what he needs to be in this game. You're lucky that I think that you're going to have Nick Chubb, you're going to have Dearness Johnson, and I think you're going to end up with Kareem Hunt in this game. I don't think Kareem Hunt is a guy who's going to take this lightly. If he's healthy and COVID's not affecting him, I think he's going to go. If he was good enough to go in the second half last week, I think he's going to do everything in his power to go this week. I know that people have said he's doubtful, but he's been, posting on Instagram that he's ready to roll. And so I believe him. So you have your full contingent of running backs. Case is going to have to get the ball out quickly. Max Crosby, Yannick Ngakoue can get after the quarterback. They got to have a good game plan to negate those guys, but I think they're going to do a good job. I think Case Keenum's going to come in and be the serviceable quarterback that they need. I just wouldn't expect him to, throw for 300 yards in this game.
Fair enough. Hayden Grove from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com, and I'm going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we will take a look at the playoff implications of the Browns-Raiders matchup. And plus, we'll hear from Alex Van Pelt on game planning with so many pieces that are missing from the Browns offense. Sports4CLE, we'll be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery, Partners in Education, where stars shine. Browns getting ready for the Raiders Saturday, 4:30 over at First Energy Stadium, a game both teams need to keep their playoff hopes alive. Dominique Foxworth from ESPN's Get Up on the Browns season so far.
I think it's close between the Browns and the Bills, but the Bills right now, they're still in contention, and I guess technically the Browns could make the playoffs, but the Browns have been incredibly disappointing considering, I think, coming into the season, most people would have agreed that they had one of the best, most complete rosters in the entire league. And whether it's because of injury, well, it can't just be because of injury, because the defense has been bad too, even though they're very talented. The offense, you try to blame Odell, he's gone. You still can't put it together. This team should be winning this division based on what they did last year and based on the additions that they made, and they are at the bottom of it.
Well, and there are going to be a lot of questions to be asked if it doesn't turn around in a big way about the quarterback as we go into the offseason.
Hayden Grove, they're not at the bottom of the division. They're a game out of first place, but I can't argue with the thought that the roster is underperformed. I think we maybe overestimated how good the wide receiving core was, and the defense took a while to come together. I've got no complaints with the defense over the last 2 months minus the Patriots game.
Yeah, I mean, this is the laziest of the lazy takes. I mean, it is. It's the laziest. Yeah, they're a disappointing team in that they're 7-6, and they're also probably 3 or 4 plays away from being the best team in the AFC. I mean, there were a couple that stick out to me. I mean, the obviously egregious bad pass interference call in the Chargers game probably cost them that game. You could argue that Jamie Gillen's punt in the Kansas City game, or the missed punt, in that game cost them. At that point, they add 2 more wins. They're 9-4. I mean, again, they're a couple plays away. So yes, they've been disappointing. Certainly, there have been games where they have come out and not played well. Baker Mayfield has had games where, yes, the injuries I think have affected him a little bit, but other games I don't think they affect him at all, and I just didn't think he looked good. So it's a little bit of everything. It's a combination of all these things. And he's wrong. They're not at the bottom of the division. They beat the Bengals. They beat the Ravens. I think they're 2-2 in the division at this point.
Yep.
They're a game out of first place. They can change that with a win on Sunday. I mean, it's laziness. Now, the offense, the offense is not where it needs to be, and I think that's a little disappointing. But you've had Nick Chubb out for multiple weeks. You've had Kareem Hunt out for multiple weeks. I don't think they should have gotten rid of Odell. And you had Jarvis Landry out for multiple weeks. So it's been a combination of, a lack of cohesiveness and a lack of health. So they got to figure it out offensively. I'm not saying anything about that.
Yeah, I would agree. Pro Football Focus, playoff implications for this one, and this is pretty interesting. So current playoff odds, Vegas 13%, Browns 46%. If the Browns win, it jumps up to nearly 60% likely that they make the playoffs, and Vegas down to 5%. If they lose, it's down to 23%, and if they win, a 40% chance that they win the division. So again, when we say this is a critical game as far as their playoff lives go, there's the statistics that back it up.
Yeah, every game is critical going forward. I mean, we knew that. They have no room for error, essentially. I mean, they can maybe lose one game. I think if they go 10-7, I think they'll be in the playoffs. But I don't think if they go 9-8, they make it. But again, we'll see. I think, yes, you're right. This is a huge, massive game for the Browns. And it's just, of course, the most crucial game of the year, because every game at this point is going to be the most crucial game of the year. They're not going to have a bunch of guys. So I don't know if it's cursed. I don't know if it's just bad luck. I don't know what it is, but we'll see. I think they can still come out and win this game. I think they're well coached enough. I think, on the other side of the football, you got some, issues there as well for the Raiders. And I'm interested to see how this game goes. I'm not holding out hope that they win this game. I think they can.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's going to have to be kind of an ugly game. You're not going to outscore them. But if your defense comes to play the way that it has, you have a chance to win. Well, Alex Van Pelt, who will call the game and execute the game plan that the Browns come up with Kevin Stefanski, talked about how they game plan with so many pieces missing and so many things up in the air.
You got to be smart. Obviously, you got to know who your guys are and what they do well and play to their strengths. It's no different than game planning for any other, group of players that you have available. Been in this situation many times, not just through COVID, but injuries. Injuries happen throughout the course of the year. I've lost whole sides of the offensive line for extended period of time. That's part of life in the NFL. It just happened to be that COVID got us this time.
Yeah, Hayden, again, there could be as many as 11 starters. So that would be half of them who don't make it for this. So I don't know that you've had too many games where you have only half your starters ready to go.
You don't have many, if any. It's a lot. I think the thing that I think about, at least offensively, is you do have your three-headed monster. I think you're going to have Nick Chubb. I think you're going to have Kareem Hunt. I think you're going to have Dearness Johnson. COVID-wise, or tight end-wise, I think you're going to have David Njoku, who was on the COVID list. Harrison Bryant looks like he's going to be back out there. We will see on that one. There are definitely some moment, some opportunity here. If Case Keenum can find a way to avoid pressure, and get the job done he's going to have some weapons. He's going to have, looks like DPJ is going to be okay. Looks like, Rashard Higgins. I mean, you can't count your chickens before they hatch, but we're pretty close here. So we'll see. We'll see how it ends up. And again, defensively, you also have Myles Garrett still around. You still have Jadeveon Clowney around. It looks like you still have Malik Jackson around. You still have, maybe Anthony Walker coming off the list. So there are some things you're going to be okay with. It's just, can the other guys get the job done? We will see.
Yeah, fair enough. So Joe Woods, defense coordinator, talked about Myles Garrett kind of coming out and calling out his team and then going out and delivering. Here is what Joe Woods said about Myles Garrett's comments from last week that led to that big win by the Browns.
Myles is our defensive leader, and I think he tries to lead by example. And I think when that doesn't happen and he feels like he needs to say something to the team or to the defense, that he does it. When you can go out and make a play like that, I think that backs up, your type of leadership and the things that you said to him. And going through the course of a season, it's long. I mean, it's grinding. Guys, get banged up. There's long days. Guys don't always want to be here. Me too. It gets tough at times. But you just have to fight through the grind and keep your head down. And when things aren't going well, somebody needs to step up, whether it's me as, the coordinator, the entire defense. But when it comes from a player, especially a player the caliber of Myles, it goes a long way to get those guys right.
So Joe Woods had zero problem with that, Hayden Grove, and I agree with him wholeheartedly. Zero problem with Myles Garrett saying that, because he's going to call himself out when he does that as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's the old mantra, put up or shut up. I mean, and he puts up every time. If he says something, he's playing. There's no doubt. He said it before. He's called out his teammates before, called out his defense before, and he showed up every time. That's been the mantra, and that's been what he does. I don't think you see him, ever come into a game and get dominated. I mean, that's just how good he is. That's how hard he prepares. I mean, he's a very, very special guy. And he's allowed to say those things because, like we said, when you come out and say those things and you perform, that's okay. Trust me, that's what they want. So love to hear it from Myles. Love to have guys getting on his level. I think it's a great thing.
Hayden Grove from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we will hear from Derek Carr about the Browns defense. We'll also head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports4CLE. Be right back. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Seven and 6 Browns getting ready for the Las Vegas Raiders 4:30 Saturday over at First Energy Stadium. Browns only a game out of first place in the AFC North. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one deals with play calling.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. This is Josh. When I look at the Browns, I think their struggles come down to play calling. We're just too predictable on offense and defense. We continue to run it up the middle, no outside runs whatsoever. And then on defense, we continue to play prevent and not get enough pressure. So we just allow the other team's best receiver to continue to catch the ball and kill us the entire game. I don't understand the play calling.
Hayden Grove, I think there's some truth to what the caller says. I don't know that the Browns have been playing prevent the whole time. I'd like to see them more aggressive. When they're aggressive, I think they're good. Offensively, I don't know how much they're not able to run outside because you don't have Jack Conklin and you have Jedrick Wills, who's been hobbled. I think those all factor into it. But I tend to agree. I would like to see the play calling offensively to be a little more varied, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, the last couple of weeks, especially against Baltimore, it's hard. I mean, they're a great run defense, and when the Browns will run first, you have to throw the football. And I think Baker Mayfield did a really good job on Sunday of football. But I also think that when you look at what Kevin Stefanski was doing in the second half, again, I think it's a little timid. And I would like to see a little more aggression. They don't, and maybe it's partially on Baker because he's not willing to throw. He's not trying to put his teammates in bad positions and not trying to throw picks when he doesn't have to. But yeah, I mean, I think that Kevin Stefanski has to be better. And this week it's going to be Alex Van Pelt, so that'll be different. But going forward, I think Kevin Stefanski has to be better in play calling, putting his team in the right positions, not being predictable. I know that there are things that they want to stick to and do well, but just a little more creativity in the run game to get the run game going. The pass game is going to be the pass game, I think, when it comes to Kevin Stefanski. But in the run game specifically, I would like to see a little more creativity, just a little bit.
And you mentioned Alex Van Pelt calling the plays this week. He talked about what he learned from calling the plays a season ago in that playoff game.
Having the confidence to go in and if I have to call it as closely as I would as Kevin was there. Like I said last year, I don't want him to say, what the hell is he doing? That's my goal, and that blueprint's worked for us. We just need to stay consistent. I love our plan this week. I love the focus, regardless of whether we're in the building or not. The guys are locked in, so I feel good going into Saturday.
And again, they're game planning together, so it's not going to be drastically different. It would be nuance, the difference, different timing, different feel for what's going on.
Yeah, I think that, the way that it's called is going to be a little different, but you got to, I think it'll be a little more of Alex Van Pelt's spice to what they're going to do with the concoction that they come up with in the game plan. But at the end of the day, this is Kevin Stefanski's offense, this is Kevin Stefanski's scheme, and Alex Van Pelt knows what knows what they like to do. And I am fully in belief that they do collaborate on this. This is a collaborative effort offensively. Yes, Kevin Stefanski calls the plays, but I think coming out, you're going to see a very similar offense to what you've seen. Now, maybe in the second half, maybe there are going to be some things that are different, or maybe after the first couple drives, things start to pick up a little bit. But, in this game, it has to be a little bit, different anyway, just given the amount of guys that are out. So we'll see how it goes on Sunday. I'm excited to see, or Saturday, I'm excited to see what Alex Van Pelt can do with this team.
Well, one of the guys that the Browns defense will have to deal with, Derek Carr, quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders, has the second most yards passing to Tom Brady in the NFL this year. He talked about the challenges that he sees on tape from this Browns defense.
Yeah, I mean, they're a really good front. We know I've played against a lot of these players, maybe not all at once, but I've played against a lot of these players, and they're all super talented, some of the best in the whole NFL, in the whole world. And, we'll have our work cut out for us. And, again, it's the NFL. The games are they're won in the trenches, and, it's going to be a fight. It's going to be a great competition, and great challenge for us as an offense, to see if we can not only move the ball. I think we can move the ball, but not saying that we can just move it on anybody. But I feel like we've done that well. But we got to score points, and to do that against this defense is going to take all 11, because these guys are really good, not just on the D line. They're really good everywhere.
And again, Hayden, that's the main thing. The Browns have to find a way to keep this a reasonably low-scoring game, because with what they're missing on offense, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of points that they're able to put up on the scoreboard.
No. I mean, I think you're going to have to find another 17-14 game. I think that's how this team has operated the last couple of weeks. I think that's how they're going to have to continue to operate. It's tough. Yeah, it is, no doubt. But that's where we're at. And Derek Carr in that offense is good. There's no doubt. I mean, Derek Carr, one of the better quarterbacks in the league. I think a guy that goes, a little bit under the radar, just because the team that he's been around hasn't been that good, and they've been through a lot of turmoil this year with off the field stuff. So that is kind of translated to on the field stuff. So yeah, I mean, they're not going to be easy to stop. But again, I think the Browns, their defense is coming to its own. They found their identity. They know what they're doing. I think they play hard. I think they play aggressive at times. I think that they, have kind of found a confidence in themselves. I think Joe Woods has kind of found a little bit of a swagger to what he does, and he's been dialing up blitzes at the right time, dialing up good coverage at the right time. And I think the thing that the Browns are probably most excited about is that they don't have to face a very mobile quarterback in Derek Carr. Yes, Derek can move, But Lamar Jackson, Tyler Huntley, those guys are at next level. And I think when you look at Derek Carr, he can certainly get out of the pocket, but that's not his first MO. So it'll be a little bit nice for JOK to not have to be, to be spying and to be trying to fly around a defense that are trying to fly around and find a guy like Lamar Jackson, who is just an otherworld athlete at this point.
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly. So John Johnson III is likely going to miss the game because of the COVID list. There's Ronnie Harrison may be back. Troy Hill is now on the COVID list. With the guys in the secondary and the safety that are banged up, Grant Delpit steps into an important role, and Grant Delpit has played pretty well as of late. Joe Woods talked about what he has seen from Grant Delpit.
It's reps. Grant didn't play last year. Usually as you come in as a rookie, you go through and you learn. You learn from the good things you do. You learn from the bad things you do. You get a chance to sit down and look at it, when you come back in the offseason and then really develop a plan on how to get better. But for Grant, it's like that's what he's going through now. So with each game, with each thing he does well, he understands it, and each thing he has to correct. If we help him correct, he understands it. So I think you're starting to see him be more consistent and settle down and just be himself.
And again, Hayden, that's another guy that he has the ability to make plays, and they're going to need people in that secondary to make plays.
Yeah, he's a guy that can, bring the boom, a hard hitter, also very fast, athletic. Joe Woods is right. He's probably just got to learn the game a little more. This is his rookie season. Last year he didn't play at all. So this is his real rookie season. And I think, with John Johnson potentially being out, not only for this game, but maybe for the next one as well, due to the fact that, according to reports, he's not vaccinated. It's a time for him to step up, a time for Ronnie Harrison to step up. I know he's been out a little bit, but time for these guys to step up. And I know John Johnson's the leader, but maybe a guy like Grant Delpit can use that athleticism, can use that speed and change this defense and bring what he brings. I think, he had moments this year of flashes, and, this might be a real opportunity for him to get out there and to show what he's worth and show, hey, I can come out here, I can make some plays, and show that he's capable of being in the back end of that defense.
Hayden Grove from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take one more timeout. On the other side of the break, we'll take a look at Chase McLaughlin. Browns need him to get things right, kicking field goals. We will also hear from Derek Carr about the way the Raiders have played. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions, lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns, getting ready for the Raiders Saturday 4:30, a game they desperately need. In a close game, special teams always play a big role. Chase McLaughlin has struggled last few games. Mike Priefer, though, thinks he can get it corrected.
The only thing I can tell you is that I think he needs to keep his head down a little bit longer and follow through towards his target a little bit more. That's something we've talked about now the last few weeks. I don't believe he did that on the one he missed. Obviously, that's one that we have to have in the fourth quarter, which would have made it, I think, a 18-point game. That was a big miss, and he needs to make those.
And Hayden Grove, he's got to make his kicks, especially moving forward. Every point is going to be a battle for the Browns these last four games. Can't leave any of them on the field.
No, yeah, I mean, especially on Saturday. You're right; they're going to need every point they can get. Kicking is just such a weird thing, man. Unless you're Justin Tucker, it's hard. It's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to be consistent at. So, it seems like Chase McLaughlin's had a little bit of struggle lately. Hopefully they're working to figure it out. And, last game, I'll give them this. I mean, it was windy in First Energy Stadium, and it's not easy to kick there, especially in your first year. I think the Browns have had relatively good conditions at First Energy Stadium this year, but that was not the case on Sunday. So we'll see how that goes going forward. In terms of, Chase McLaughlin, you're right. They need him. They need him to be better. to not miss kicks. And if he's missing a 56-yarder, that's one thing. But if you're missing 40-yard kicks, it's not good. It's not good. So, the cheat code that's Justin Tucker, it gives the Ravens a huge advantage in so many situations. And the Browns need to rely on their kicker for, maybe not to be Justin Tucker, but to be something, very consistent in big moments.
So the Raiders have lost 5 of their last 6 games. Derek Carr just talked about the way they're playing.
The main thing right now is that we're too inconsistent. The main thing is that we're too much of this instead of just doing the same thing right over and over again. So, and that's as a whole. We got to be better as a whole. And if we can be consistent, we've shown that we can put up a lot of points and put up a lot of yards against some really good teams.
Hayden, when I heard him say that sounds a lot like the Browns, the season the Browns have had.
I think the Browns and Raiders are more comparable than you think, in that maybe they don't do the same things offensively, but they kind of have similar rosters in terms of, they have 2 big defensive ends, Ngakoue and Max Crosby. They have a quarterback that, some would say is less than subpar. Some would say is very, very good. They've gone through a lot more off the field stuff this year, losing their head coach, and obviously the tragic situation with Henry Ruggs. But they've been through a lot of adversity either way. And you're right, they've been inconsistent. I think the Browns are a more talented team. I think the Browns are a far better coach team. But I think there are similarities there, and that, I think the fans probably expect more from the Raiders than what they've gotten, just as the fans expect more from the Browns than what they've gotten. And there have been some inconsistencies. It has been a roller coaster at times. So I think there's some similarities with these groups. But going into this week, I said the Browns would win this game kind of hands down. I think they would have been ready to go. And now it's, with this COVID situation, it's much different. So we'll see. We'll see what they can do.
All right, so one guy that Browns will need to be aware of, Hunter Renfro, last 3 games, 30 receptions, 353 yards, and a touchdown. He's stepped up nicely, and it's important to note Darren Waller hasn't played because of back and knee issues. You mentioned Ruggs. Josh Jacobs has been a little inconsistent. That guy has been the guy that has stepped up and given the Raiders some offense. So that's a guy the Browns are going to have to be aware of. When you look at this game, and we've talked about it a lot, how do you think this plays out for the Browns and the Raiders?
I have no idea. I mean, going into this week, I think I said on Sunday, I have no doubt the Browns are going to come out and win this game. I would have said 38, or I would have said Browns win 35-17. They come out and play really well. I think it's just they were in a good spot. I think they were getting healthier. I think that the game plan would have been really good against the Raiders. They kind of lost the Raiders last year in a bad game, and I think this year would have come out and been a lot different. I think they would have been more prepared for Josh Jacobs last year. They were not. So that being the case, I would have said the Browns come out and win. I think Sunday is going to be an absolute slugfest. But I got to side with the team that has Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, and Dearness Johnson. I mean, Case Keenum, I think, can do enough. And I think the defense can do enough. But I'm certainly not as confident as I was going into it. I think that the wheels have fallen off for the Raiders a little bit. I think the Browns are super motivated because they see what's in front of them. But this COVID situation is very, very difficult. And I feel awful because it's not something you can necessarily control. A lot of these guys are vaccinated. A lot of these guys have made that responsible choice to kind of protect themselves and others and mitigate the risks and mitigate the effects. And still here they are. So, the most important thing, I was talking to somebody around the team this morning, and the most important thing is that everybody's healthy. There's nobody that's having super huge issues. There's nobody that's, hospitalized, and that's important. So, put things in perspective. Yes, it's tough if you're a football fan of the Browns, and it's not fun, but there are bigger fish to fry here.
Yep. As always, Hayden Grove, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much. Hayden Grove, can read them pages of the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. Thanks, Hayden.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
All right, have a good one. Stay safe. Hayden Grove, from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. That'll do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Scheduled guest columnist for the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com, Doug Lesmerises, as well as Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com, Ashley Bastock. That's tomorrow at 4 o'clock, Sports for CLE. We'll see you then. Have a great night, everybody.